Welcome back. So we are now on to the, I would say, most important chapter in this entire course, that is linear programming. Linear programming, what is linear programming we'll come to, but in terms of level of difficulties, I said that this is toughest of them all. Toughest, not because it is tough it is, but the reason for being called as toughest is that it is very vast. The number of lectures that we'll require to complete this chapter is going to be very large. The number of variations is going to be very large. And as a result, typically, this is going to be the toughest problem in terms of study to be done by you. Fine. But let me assure you, if you master the methodology that is involved, and we'll have sufficient practice in the lectures itself, you will be able to tackle any problem which comes on linear programming. So, chapter number 3, we start linear programming. In terms of level of difficulties, I said in the introductory lecture that this is toughest of them all, or at the highest level I'll place it, on account of the vastness of the topic more than the difficulty level involved. Fine. So, let me start chapter number 3, linear programming, also known as LPP or linear programming problem. Therefore, we can call it either LP or LPP. Similarly, the first chapter that we did on assignment problem is sometimes called as AP, assignment problem. Second chapter is known as TP, not time pass, it is transportation problem. And third one, LPP or linear programming problem. Fine. So let's first understand what is a linear programming problem. Linear programming are obviously two words, so I'll write them here, linear and programming. And there is an objective for doing linear programming. So let's understand these three words. Objective, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of solving this problem? Let us first understand, then understand the meaning of linear, and then understand the meaning of programming. Purpose, objective. In any business, typically if you see, what are the objectives of a business? Now see, objectives of two divisions in a business may not be same. For example, the inventory people who are taking care of the stores, their objective will be to minimize the cost of inventory. Whereas the production people will require that uninterrupted supply of inventory is there, they don't care about the cost. So they want the inventories to be available when they require it. But inventory people will try to minimize the storage of inventory so that the cost involved is minimum. They have their own targets. So sometimes objectives of two different divisions in the same company may be opposing each other. Fine. But given inventory division or production division, they have an objective. Okay. Now what are the objectives in business, for example? Typically, I can broadly classify it into two. Objective is to maximize profit or minimize cost. Either of the two objectives. Now maximize, as we said in the case of transportation problem also originally, or for that matter in my introductory lecture, what do we maximize? We maximize satisfaction, we maximize happiness, we maximize production, we maximize sales, we maximize profit. These are attributes which we try to maximize. What are the things that we try to minimize? We try to minimize cost, we try to minimize dissatisfaction, we want to minimize wastages, we want to minimize distance traveled for doing a particular job, and so on, or time taken to do a job. So these are things which we want to minimize. So given the objective, it has to be one of the two, either minimize the value of something or maximize the value of something. These are objectives of any business. If you go to a production department, its objective will be to maximize production, whereas the costing department may say that minimize the cost of production. Okay. The sales department will say maximize sales. They are not concerned with production. Production may be less or more, but they want to maximize sales. Correct. So sometimes these objectives may not be synchronous or they may be opposing each other, but given a department, for example production department, their objective will be to maximize production. Sales department, the objective will be to maximize sales. Or the accounts department, their objective will be to maximize profit. They are not concerned about sales. Even if you do less sales, my profit should be maximum. That could be their objective. And these objectives are not necessarily always synchronous or in the same direction. They could be opposing each other. Fine. But given the department, their objective is very clear. So Objectives of any business or any division in a business are of two types: maximize or minimize. One of the two. Which one is it? We need to specify. Good. Then what are the methods of solving? One of the methods is linear programming. What is linear and what is programming? We'll come to that. This is a very general method. Linear programming is a general method which is applicable in several situations. In fact, the several problems that we'll be doing, you will find that this is direct application, whether it is portfolio management, production related problem, deciding a product mix, deciding cost of manufacturing. All these problems can be solved using linear programming, and we require certain data to solve a problem using linear programming. Now, linear. The first word in this phrase, linear programming, is a phrase comprising of two words. First word is linear. By linear we understand a straight line. If a graph is drawn, for example, of two variables. Now see, in our school algebra, we learned that a graph paper or a graph has two axes. One axis, the horizontal axis, is always known as x-axis, and the vertical axis is known as y-axis. Okay. So this is a graph of y versus x. One of them is a dependent variable, one of them is an independent variable. Conventionally, y is called as a dependent variable, x is an independent variable. It does not matter. Okay. I can change independent to dependent, dependent to independent. It does not matter. If the relationship between x and y is such that it's a straight line, if the relationship between x and y, when plotted on a graph paper, it happens to be a straight line, then we say that the relationship is linear. For example, what are the various types of graphs that we can draw which are in the straight line form? This is a straight line, fine. This is a straight line, fine. Even this is a straight line, fine. It's a straight line. Important is the slope could be positive or negative, but it's a straight line still. What is not a straight line? This is not a straight line. This is not a straight line. This is a curve which looks like a sine curve. So this is not a straight line. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay. These are all straight lines. The slope could be positive or negative. It could be slanting like this or like this. It does not matter. It's a straight line relationship. What happens is, in respect of this straight line, as x increases, y also increases. In respect of this straight line also, which I have pointed out here, as x increases, the value of y increases. But in respect of this straight line, which is slanting in a reverse direction, as x increases, y decreases, and as y increases, x decreases. The slope could be positive or negative. It does not matter. But the important fact is, it is a straight line. Okay. Now, when can an equation have a straight line? Now, what are the typical equations? Now, see, a straight line equation, if you remember, in school mathematics, we used to consider it as y is equal to ax plus b, or some places you find y is equal to mx plus c. What is important to note here, the condition for an equation to be a straight line is that y has a power 1 and x has a power 1. When I say y, it is actually y raised to 1. Y raised to 2 is different. Y raised to 1, x raised to 1. That means both the dependent and independent variable have a power equal to 1. The power of the variable has to be equal to 1 for it to be a straight line. Okay. Now, it is not necessary that we must have only two variables. We can have even 3-4 variables also. But the condition for linearity is that the power of the variable must be equal to 1 and there should be no other function involved in the equation. For example, if I write something like this, y is equal to sine x. This is the function which I have brought in, or y is equal to log x, or y is equal to e raised to x, etc. These are not straight line relationships. These are graphs. If we plot them, they will not be straight line, but these are some different functions involved. So there should be no other function. Only a linear function must be involved, and for linear function, the power of the variable has to be 1. That is important. For example, y is equal to x. is a linear function. Power of y is 1, power of x is 1, but y square is equal to x square is not a linear equation. Okay, the power of variables is 2. Anything other than 1 is not acceptable. For example, y raised to 1.1 is equal to mx plus c. Not acceptable as a straight line. This is y raised to 1.1. It is not 1. Y raised to 1. And x is also raised to 1. So if that is the case, it's a straight line. This is not a straight line, this is not a straight line, but this is a straight line. Y is equal to x is a straight line. In other words, we know now what is linear. What we understand by linearity, I'll explain once again. One thing is it should be a straight line, which I have explained. Now typically see, when you go to a market, I want to buy rice, for example. Okay. Now the rice cost is rupees 40 per kg. Suppose I like a particular variety of rice, the rice cost is rupees 40. That shop sells anywhere between 1 to 5 kg per person. It sells only 1 to 5 kg per person. Now, if I buy 1 kg of rice, it will cost me rupees 40. 2 kg will cost 80, 3 kg will cost 120, 160, or 5 kg will cost me 200. 40 into 5. So in other words, the straight line relationship can be seen like this. If this is the number of kgs and this is the price or cost paid, the relationship will look like this. For 5 kg, the cost will be 200. For 1 kg, the cost will be 40, and so on. And in between, we can find the price payable. For example, I buy 2.1 kg, it will cost me 84 rupees. Okay, and so on. Fine. So this is a straight line relationship. Now suppose the store tells me that if you buy 1 kg, I'll charge you 40 rupees, fine. But if you don't bring a bag, it will cost you 5 rupees for the bag. Then whatever quantity I buy up to 5 kg, I have to pay additionally 5 rupees for the bag. Okay. So if I buy 0 kgs, I don't pay anything. But if I buy 1 kg, how much will I pay? 40 rupees for the rice and 5 rupees for the bag. If I buy 5 kg, it will cost me 200 rupees and 5 rupees for the bag. In other words, this is not an equation which will be passing through the origin. Okay. This will be an equation, straight line will not be passing through origin. Fine. So straight line relationship is very, very important in the context of linear programming. In fact, the entire linear programming is based on the assumption that the variables vary linearly. If it is graph, it is easy to see because there are only two axes, x and y. So if I plot a graph, if it is a straight line, then it's a linear relationship. How do we judge if the relationship is linear or not if there are more than two variables involved? For example, x1, x2 are my conventional variables, which are, suppose I use variables such as x1, x2, x3, x4. Is the relationship linear? What is the criteria? The power of the variable should be equal to 1 and there should be no other function. In that case, we say that the relationship is linear even if there are more than two variables. Fine. So linear relationship is an important relationship. Our entire assumption in linear programming is that the variables have a linear relationship. In fact, there is a separate branch of operations research which deals with relationships which are not linear, and that is called as non-linear programming. Okay, so we are not into non-linear programming, we are only into linear programming, and therefore our assumption will always be the power of variables is 1. If it is two variables, it will going to be a straight line when plotted on the graph. So linear relationship is understood now. Variables will be, for example, see, if I am a car manufacturer, I require 5 tires for making one car. 4 tires on the car and 1 spare tire I have to give with the car. So 5 tires I'll require to manufacture one car. But if I manufacture 100 cars, I'll require 500 tires. So the relationship is linear. For one car it is 5 tires, for 2 cars it is 10 tires, for 100 cars it is 500 tires. A relationship is linear. In respect of bank loans, for example, if you are taking working capital from the bank Let's say the working capital interest is 15%. Then if I draw 100 rupees, I'll be paying 15 rupees by way of interest. If I borrow 1000 rupees, I'll be paying 150 rupees by way of interest at 15%. The rate is same. Okay. So again, a linear relationship. If the production is more, the value of that production is more. Now sales. If I sell one car at rupees 3 lakh, if the sale is one car, the sales are 3 lakh rupees. If I sell two cars, the sales are 6 lakh rupees, and so on. If I sell 100 cars, the sales are 3 crore rupees. Okay. So again, a linear relationship. If you see, most of the relationships in business are linear in nature, or they can be approximated to be linear in nature, and therefore linear programming has tremendous applications in the context of business, where the relationships are, normally speaking, or most of them are linear. So we have understood the word linear only right now. We have understood that there is an objective. The objective could be to maximize or minimize. Linear relationship, what is a linear relationship, we have understood. Now I'll come to the programming part. Suppose my objective is maximize. If my objective is maximize, the relationship is linear, therefore I know that I can apply linear programming. What is programming? Programming deals with changing the values of variables, trying out various values of variables in order to achieve the objective. Take some value of one variable, take another value of variable, try out, go on trying out till you reach the maximum value of the given objective. For example, the objective could be maximize sales, or the objective could be, in another case, minimize cost of production. In which case, take various values of variables. The variables are typically denoted by x1, x2, x3, x4, etc. in linear programming. Take various values of x1, x2, x3, x4, as many variables are there. In such a way, do a programming, choose the values of variables in such a way that the objective of minimization of cost is achieved, or the objective of maximizing the profit is achieved. Maximize profit, minimize cost. These are two broad objectives of any function. So programming is choosing the values of variables in order to achieve the objectives. So this is linear programming. Linear programming, therefore, has one of the two objectives: maximize something, minimize something. It is given that the relationships between the variables are necessarily linear, therefore we can apply linear programming, and programming part of it deals with changing the values of variables in order to achieve the objective. Okay. Fine. So this is broadly linear programming. Tremendous applications in business. In fact, if you see portfolio management. Portfolio management is what? A person who is retiring has a corpus of funds with him. Let's say on retirement he gets an amount of, let's say, 25 lakhs. He has to invest this 25 lakhs in various possible avenues to earn some return from this 25 lakhs. Various avenues are possible. There is equity, there is mutual fund, there is debt, there are bank deposits, there are government schemes like NSC, NSS, and there is PPF and PF and so on. Several schemes are available, out of which he has to choose the various schemes in order to achieve his objective and fulfill some of the conditions which he has in his mind. For example, one person who has a very high risk appetite may entirely invest that 25 lakhs in equity and take a big risk. Whereas other person, he is very conservative. He may say that, okay, I'll not invest more than 5 lakhs in equity. My 20 lakhs must go in bank deposits. His objective is also to maximize, but his condition in his mind is, I will not invest more than 5 lakhs in equities or equity related products like mutual funds. I'll invest 20 lakhs in fixed income earning investments, where it could be a PF, or it could be a bank deposit, or it could be a bond, government bond, etc. So portfolio management is one of the areas where linear programming can be successfully applied. We'll be doing some very simple problems on portfolio management also, and we'll see how linear programming can be applied over there. Now I'll start with the first problem here. Now see, what are the methods? Linear programming has two broad methods for solving the problem. What we'll be going through, there are more methods, but we'll look at two broad methods for solving the problem. Now linear programming, when I say, or LPP, it has got two broad approaches. One is a graphical method and one is an algebraic method. graphical method and algebraic method. These are two broad methods. The algebraic method that we'll be learning is called as simplex. Okay, so we'll be doing only simplex method so far as algebraic portion is concerned. So far as graph is concerned, there is only the method which uses only a graph paper. We'll be drawing graphs, and based on the graphs, we'll find out what is the solution to the problem and what is the objective of the problem, either to maximize something or minimize something. Okay. So I'll take up a sample problem, which is your question number 1 from the book now. So I'll write down question number 1 as appearing in your book. So let's go to this question. Then I'll explain what are the various parts. After writing this question, I'll explain what are the various parts of a linear programming problem. We are doing chapter number 3, question number 1 under the graphical method. Okay, so chapter number 3, name of the chapter is LPP or linear programming problem. There we have two methods, graphical and B, I'll call it simplex. Okay, under graphical method there are several questions. This is question number 1 from the graphical method that I am doing. How does the question appear in your book? I'll just write it as it is and then I'll explain what the question means. Okay, now let's see here. The question reads like this: maximize zeta, this is pronounced as zeta, it is written as a Z with a cross. Maximize zeta, which is equal to 40x1 plus 35x2. What is the objective of the problem? To maximize the value of 40x1 plus 35x2. This is the objective of the problem, and then I am putting some conditions. I am calling them constraints. What are constraints? I'll tell you shortly. Subject to two conditions. The two conditions are that the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall not exceed 60. Okay, what these numbers mean, I'll shortly explain. I'll give you an example. Now second constraint is as appearing there, 4x1 plus 3x2 shall not exceed 96. And another condition is there which says values of x1, x2 shall be only positive. Okay. So this is the given question which we are trying to answer. Now this is the first question that we are trying on linear programming. So we'll spend little more time in visiting this question, little more time in explaining. The second question will be done little faster than the first question. Okay. Now see, objective. What is the objective? To maximize the value of 40x1 plus 35x2. So what do I want to achieve at the end of solving the problem? I want to get in my hand the value of 40x1 plus 35x2, which is going to be maximum. Okay. Subject to these conditions, subject to these two conditions, condition number 1 says the value of 2x1 plus 3x2. In other words, I want such values of x1 and x2 such that the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall always be invariably lesser than or at the most equal to 60. And similarly, the value of 4x1 plus 3x2 shall be at the most 96 or it will be less than 96. And the third and important condition says that the values of the variables x1 and x2 cannot be negative. Okay, so these are three broad parts of the problem. I'll call this part number 1. This part is 1. This part is 2. And this part I'll call it as 3. What are the three parts of a linear programming problem? First part gives me the objective or purpose. Second part gives me the constraints or the conditions. And third part is called as non-negativity constraint. These are three broad parts of any linear programming problem. I'll give you an example. how this question has come up. Let me give you an example so that you can appreciate the question and the importance of it. Suppose we are on question number 1 of graphical method. Now what I have written here is the question as appearing in your book. Now I'll give you an explanation. Suppose a company has 2 products. I'll call them product 1 and product 2. Okay. What is the profit from this product? Profit per unit made by product P1 is rupees 40, and profit made per unit by product P2 is rupees 35. So these are profits. Okay. In other words, if we take the number of units of a product P1 as X1 and number of units of product P2 as X2, simple to remember, P1 is X1, P2 is X2. Number of units of product P1 is X1, number of units of product P2 is X2. So if we have these 2 products called as P1 and P2 and their profits are respectively rupees 40 and rupees 35, and suppose my objective is to maximize profit, the profit will obviously be equal to rupees 40 into number of units of this product which is X1 and rupees 35 into number of units of this product which is X2. Can you see something similar here? So the maximize function or objective function is zeta is equal to 40x1 plus 35x2, and this being the profit, I want to maximize the profit. This is the objective. Remember, linear programming problem, any linear programming problem must start with one of the objectives. It should be either maximize or minimize. Fine. So since this is profit, the objective is to maximize profit. Now suppose these 2 products P1 and P2, for manufacturing these 2 products I require 2 important resources. I'll call it resource number 1. Of this resource number 1, maximum units available with me are 60. Resource number 1 could be one particular raw material, and resource number 2 would be another particular raw material. Resource number 1, which has 60 units of raw material available, what is the resource consumption by these products? For every unit of product P1 which I make, I require 2 units of this resource number 1, or I'll call it raw material number 1. 2 raw materials are required. I'm call it raw material number 1, raw material number 2. So raw material number 1, every unit of product P1 requires 2 units of raw material number 1, and every unit of product P2, I'm going to make X2 of them, every unit of product P2 requires 3 units of raw material number 1. And the total quantity available with me of this raw material is only 60 units. So since product P1 requires 2 units and product P2 requires 3 units, what is the total resource requirement by me? It will be 2 into X1 plus 3 into X2. Each unit requires 3, each unit here requires 2. So raw material number 1, what is my total requirement? It will be 2X1 plus 3X2, as you can see here. And what is the maximum number of units available with me? It is 60. Therefore, the raw material available is limited to 60 units. I am free to use less than 60. I can use 50. So long as I am making highest possible profit. I am free to use 59. I can use anything less than 60. But I cannot ask for even 1 unit more than 60. I cannot say I want 61 units. No. Because the availability is restricted to 60. Similar situation in respect of resource number 2 or raw material number 2. Every unit of product P1 requires 4 units of this resource, and every unit of product P2 requires 3 units of this resource, and the availability of this resource is limited to 96. In other words, what is my total requirement of raw material number 2? 4 into number of units X1, 3 into number of units X2. So I'll require totally 4X1 plus 3X2 units of raw material number 2. And what is the limitation? The limitation is it will be available only to the extent of 96. I am free to use less than 96, but I cannot ask anything more than 96, not even 1 unit more than 96. Fine. So these are the 2 constraints. These 2 constraints here are on account of 2 raw materials, of which there is a limited supply. So this is called as a constraint. Constraint is a operational condition. I cannot ask for more than this. I cannot ask for more than this. Raw material number 160, raw material number 2 96. Okay, good. So these are my constraints. The last constraint says that the values of the variables shall not be negative. So first part, objective, I have understood. Objective is to maximize profit. What are these two constraints? These two constraints say that I cannot use up more than 60 and 96 units of raw material number 1 and 2 respectively. And the third part of the linear programming problem, which is non-negativity constraint, tells me that the values of variables x1 and x2 that you are going to use cannot be negative. Obviously, in a problem of product mix like this, I cannot be manufacturing negative number of units of product 1 and negative number of units of product 2. So one of the important assumptions in linear programming is that the values of the variables must be positive. This is an important assumption. It will be there in most of our problems, and when there are some exceptions, some of the problems will do. One of the particular variables may be allowed to be negative also. And in such a condition, in such a situation where one of the variables or more of the variables can take negative values, we cannot apply the normal method of solving the linear programming problem. We'll have to modify it, particularly in the context of simplex algorithm. That we will do when we come there. But before that, I am doing the graphical method, and in graphical method, what I find is my first problem is to maximize profit from two products. 40 and 35 are profits from the two products. The resource consumption norms are given here, and my objective is decide what? Finally decide how many units of product number 1 I'll make and how many units of product number 2 I'll make, with the objective of maximizing the profit. Okay, so this is called as a description of the problem. This description of the problem has been converted into the linear programming language. Linear programming language will have three parts. Part number 1, objective, purpose of the problem. Part number 2, constraints or conditions. Part number 3, omnipresent or always present, is non-negativity constraint. So given these three parts of the problem, now my objective is, it's a very simple problem. We'll be able to solve it actually in 5 minutes. But since we are introducing the new subject of linear programming, we'll take little longer to explain and obtain the solution of this problem. The next problem will presume that we already know how to deal with the problem, and therefore that will take little lesser time and we'll be able to do it little faster. But being the first problem, we'll always revisit it, find out what are the solutions, what are the options, and then the explanation will take little longer than normal. Fine. So now I'm going to solve this problem. What are we going to do? We are going to solve it graphically. Graphically means I am applying the first method. Graphical method and simplex methods are two broad methods which we are learning. Graphical method is a very simple method. In fact, why? The reason is, on a graph there are only two axes, one horizontal and one vertical. So there cannot be more than two variables. So in a graphical problem, invariably you will find that there are only two variables in the problem. Okay. Fine. So there are two variables here. What are the names of the variables? They are x1 and x2. Good. Now what are we going to do? We are going to try various values of x1 and x2 with the objective of maximizing the value of profit. Okay, fine. So I am starting solution of the problem. Now see, the method of solving the linear programming problem by graphical method is like this. Take one by one constraint. So the first constraint is 2x1 plus 3x2 is less than or equal to 60. Okay, so I am writing here, I am removing this. Now we know that these are the three parts. I will take up constraint number 1, which tells me that the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall be less than or equal to 60. Now see, straight line. When I say a straight line, it has an equation. Okay, an equation means the left hand side must be equal to right hand side. That is called as an equation. An equation is where the left hand side is equal to right hand side, we call it an equation. When it is not equal, we call it inequation. Correct? So we'll use equation, and therefore for the time being, instead of writing it as less than or equal to 60, I'll write it as equal to 60. Okay. So my first inequality converted into equality for the purpose of graph is 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. Now I want to plot this straight line. How do I know it is a straight line? Look at the powers of variables. Powers of variables are 1. There is no other function. So when I plot this equation, it is going to be a straight line. We'll see after drawing the straight line how it looks like. Now, what are the axes? Conventionally, we used to take x as the horizontal axis and y as the vertical axis. Here in graphical method, always invariably, we'll take x1 as the horizontal axis and x2 as the vertical axis. Remember, no change is permitted. In the exam, if you do, your solution may be correct, but it will not be given any marks. So horizontal axis is x1. So I am drawing the horizontal axis here. And then I am drawing the vertical axis I have drawn. Now I am drawing the horizontal axis. Remember, horizontal axis is always x1, vertical axis is x2. We'll never interchange this. So x1 is the horizontal axis, x2 is the vertical axis. This is the starting position. I am going to draw this straight line, the equation of which is 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. Now if you remember in our school mathematics, how do we draw a straight line? To draw a straight line, I require 2 points on the straight line. Okay, and what is the requirement? The values of variables x1 and x2 shall not be negative. That is one condition which I must keep in mind. So how do I get 2 points on this straight line? I want to draw this straight line. How it will be drawn? By taking 2 points on the straight line. One convenient way, which works many times, is that make value of one particular variable as 0 and find out the value of other variable. So for example here, if I put x1 as equal to 0, okay, see what are the points? I want 2 points on this straight line. What are the 2 points? Values of x1, x2. Values of x1, x2 are 2 points on this straight line. If I plot these 2 points on the graph paper and join the 2 points, I'll get a straight line which represents this first equation. Okay. Now, what is the method followed? Make x1 equal to 0. Then what will happen? 3x2 is equal to 60. Therefore, what is x2? x2 will be 60 divided by 3. That is 20. In other words, if x1 is 0, x2 happens to be 20. Now put these values in the variables. x1 is 0, x2 is 20, 20 into 3, 60, 60 left hand side, 60 right hand side. Done. So this is one point. How do you get the other point? Put x2 at 0 now. If I put x2 at 0, 2x1 is equal to 60 or x1 is equal to 30. So 30, 0 are 2 points. The 30, 0 is 1 point and 0, 20 is another point. If I plot these 2 points on the piece of graph and join them, I'll get a straight line, and that straight line will represent this equation, that is 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. Next, second equation. I'll take up the second equation also. Before drawing the actual lines, I'll take up this equation also. This was my constraint number 1. Now constraint number 2 says 4x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 96. Now 96, right hand side is 96, so left hand side also should be 96. So put x1 as 0. See, what are the 2 points? Here x1 is 0, here x2 is 0. So I am writing the first value in the bracket as x1 value, second value in the bracket will be x2 value. Now if x1 is 0, I put here x1 is equal to 0. What happens? This part goes. So 3x2 is equal to 96. Therefore x2 is equal to 96 divided by 3, which is 32. So 0, 32 is one point which definitely lies on this straight line. Next, how do I get this? Put x2 as 0 now. If I put x2 as 0, what happens? 4x1 is equal to 96. And if 4x1 is equal to 96, x1 will be equal to 96 divided by 4, which is 24. So what are the 2 points on this straight line? 0, 32, 24, 0 are 2 points on the second straight line. The 2 points on the first straight line are 0, 20, 30, 0. Fine. So these are the 2 points on each straight line which we have opted. Now we need to plot these on this graph which we have opened. Now since x1, x2 values will always be only positive, we are concerned with the first quadrant of the graph. We are not going to go here, we are not going to go here, and we are not going to go here. In other words, my graph must lie in this quadrant. This is called as the first quadrant. Fine. Now, look at the values of x1, x2. How much are the values of x1, x2 at the maximum? Look at the values of x1. x1 is 0, 30, 0, 24. That means 30 appears to be the highest value of x1 in all the points that we have noted. What is the maximum value of x2? 20, 0, 32, 0. So 32. Maximum value of x2 is about 32. Maximum value of x1 is about 30. In other words, my scale which I am going to open up here for this graph must be such that it will accommodate at least up to 30, 32 on both the axes. In fact, we take a scale such that it is little more than 30, 32. So I will take up to about 40 on both the axes. So how do I do that? See, what is this point? So this point is 0, 0. Both the values of x1 and x2 are 0 here. So I'll call this 10, 20, 30, 40, and in between will be 15, 5, 15, 25, 35. Okay. So these are the points on the horizontal axis x1. Similarly, vertical axis, I'll take points up to about 40. So (10, 20, 30, 40), and in between will be the middle values. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 is what I have taken on the vertical and horizontal axis both. Fine. Now let me take up straight line number 1 to draw. This is the straight line which I am taking. Look at the 2 points which we have obtained. 0, 20 and 30, 0 are 2 points on straight line number 1. 0, 20. How do I plot 0, 20 as a point? Look at this. What is the value of x1? It is 0. What is the value of x2? It is 20. That means on the x1 axis I will go up to 0, and on the x2 axis I will go up to 20. Okay. So look at this. 0, 20 is the point which I am plotting. This is 0, 0. On the x1 axis I am going up to 0 only, and on the x2 axis I am going up to 20. 10, 20. So can you see that at this particular point x2 is 20 but x1 is 0. Okay. This is point number 1 which I have plotted. I am plotting point number 2. I am looking at 1 by 1 straight line. Unless and until I finish first straight line, I will not go to the second straight line. Now see this point. 30, 0. That means on the x1 axis I go up to 30, and on the x2 axis I go up to 0. So let me do that. On the x1 axis I go up to 30, and on the x2 axis I go up to 0. So this is the point. 2 points, 0, 20, 30, 0, successfully plotted. If I join these 2 points, can you see that all the points lying between these 2 points and lying on that straight line will satisfy the equation? I require only 2 points to draw a straight line. So I am drawing this straight line now by joining these 2 points which we have plotted, and that is my straight line number 1 which I am looking for. So this is the straight line. Joining these 2 points I got this straight line. What is the equation of this straight line? Already written there, 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. In other words, as soon as I plot the straight line, what I do is I write the equation of this straight line as 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. This is the equation of this straight line. Okay. Straight line number 1 done. But recall the original constraint. I had drawn a straight line, but what is the original constraint? It says that the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall be less than or equal to 60. Can you see that between this point and this point, any point on this straight line, the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 will be exactly equal to 60. Okay. Now, what about points above this line in this direction? Can you see that the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall be greater than 60? And what about inside this triangle? The value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall be less than 60 inside the triangle, On this straight line, it will be exactly equal to 60, and above this straight line, the value of 2x1 plus 3x2 shall be greater than 60. And since the constraint says less than or equal to 60, I am not interested in the points which are lying above this line. I am interested in all those points which are lying below this line. In other words, if constraint number 1 has to be satisfied, constraint number 1, the value should be less than or equal to 60. In this triangle, the value is less than or equal to 60. In other words, whatever solution I am going to find has to lie in this triangle. Correct? Because on this line, the value will be exactly equal to 60. Above this line, the value will be greater than 60. And since I require the value to be less than 60, this triangle will satisfy this constraint number 1. Good. Now, constraint number 2. Similar procedure. What are the 2 points on constraint number 2? Second straight line we have shown there. 0, 32, 24, 0 are the 2 points which I must plot and join them. That will give me the second straight line in question. So let me draw the 2 points. Firstly, point the 2 points and join them. So similar to the first straight line, we will now draw the second straight line. The equation of the second straight line is here, which says 4x1 plus 3x2 equal to 96. 2 points on this straight line have already been obtained. The points are 0, 32, 24, 0. So same procedure, I will plot this point, I will plot this point, and then we will join them. That will give me the second straight line, or which will represent the second constraint of the second raw material. Okay, so I will do that now. See, first point was 0, 32. What is 0, 32? On the x1 axis go up to 0, on the x2 axis go up to 32. Now can you say this is 30, this is 35? So I will say somewhere between the two here is 32. So I will mark this point as 0, 32. Second point on this straight line, as you can see here, is 24, 0. That means I must go up to 24 on the horizontal axis and up to 0 on the second axis. So now pay attention here, this is 0, 10, 20, 30. So this is somewhere my 25. So 24 will be little less than 25. If you use a millimeter scale, which is there on the graph paper, your graph will be more accurate. But since I have no intermediate marking, I am going by the judgment of my eyesight. Okay, and this approximation will be fine, and this is my point that I am talking about, something like 24, and therefore if I join these 2 points, that is 0, 32 and 24, 0, I will get the second straight line in question, which is like this. Zero 32 being joined with 24, 0. Good. So 0, 32, 24, 0 joined, and the second straight line in question has been drawn. Now I must write the equation of this straight line. The first equation of this line was 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 0. The straight line which I have drawn next, the equation is 4x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 96. Remember, for drawing the graph, we must have an equal to sign over here, though the original constraints are less than or equal to 60 and less than or equal to 96. Now if you see, this is the second straight line which I have drawn. There is a triangle formed below this straight line. This triangle is the area which will satisfy the real constraint. On this straight line from this point to this point, the value of 4x1 plus 3x2 will be exactly equal to 96. Above this straight line, the value will be greater than 96, and below this straight line, the value of 4x1 plus 3x2 will be less than 96. In other words, I am interested in all the points which are lying below this line as well. And since both the constraints have to be obeyed, that means I cannot ask for more than 60 units of first raw material and more than 96 units of the second raw material. I must look out for points which are below both these straight lines. Now see, that restricts our area. Can you see that this triangle will satisfy this constraint, but it will not satisfy this constraint because the points in this triangle will lie above this line. Similarly, this small triangle over here, this triangle, any point in this triangle will satisfy this constraint which you have drawn first, but it will not satisfy the second constraint because the points are above this line. So which is that area of the graph which satisfies both the constraints? In other words, I am looking for points which are lying below both the straight lines which I have drawn, and can you easily see that the area under consideration will be this, and this shaded area, what I am showing you now, will be the area which will satisfy both the constraints. See, I cannot go above any one of the two lines. Can you see that this shaded area, which is a quadrilateral? So if you see here, therefore, the solution space. What is the solution space? I have not yet introduced the word. Solution space is that space from the graph where we are going to find your solution. For example, the shaded area here, which I have shown in a different color. Now see, what is the shape of this shaded area? If I draw a graph like this, it looks something like this to me. Okay. Now this shaded area is such that it satisfies both my constraints, that is 2x1 plus 3x2 is less than or equal to 60, and 4x1 plus 3x2 is less than or equal to 96. Both the constraints are satisfied in this shaded area. Therefore, the shaded area is known as solution space. Okay, so I'll write here solution space. You're not required to write this, but always show the shaded area. When you drop the constraints in the form of straight lines, find out which area of the graph satisfies not one but all the constraints, and that area of the graph is what we are interested in finding out the solution. So in other words, my solution, which will be found in such a way that the value of 40x1 plus 35x2 is going to be maximum, is going to lie where? It is going to lie in one of the points of this shaded area, and the shaded area is my solution space. Okay, now how many points are there in this solution space? There are millions of points. Where do I find the solution? I cannot be hunting around for the solution in all the million points in this shaded area. Fortunately, the solution lies at the vertices or the corner points of the solution space. Now see, this is what? This is a triangle is a three-sided figure. A quadrilateral is a four-sided figure. A pentagon is a five-sided figure, and so on. So this is a quadrilateral which has been formed by four lines, 1, 2, 3 and 4. The space enclosed in this four lines is this quadrilateral, and how many corner points are there in this quadrilateral? One is obviously, this is corner point. What is the corner point? Where two lines intersect is a corner point. This is another corner point, this is another corner point, and this is last corner point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are four corner points of the solution space. And can we give them some names? Yes, we'll give them some names. We'll call these points as A, B, C, D. Okay. Or since this point is already there and this point is usually referred to as O, O for origin, I'll call it O, A, this is B, and this is C. In other words, I have already found the possible places of my solution, and the solution is going to lie at either point O or A or B or C. One of these 4 points, O, A, B, C. Why these 4 points? These are the corner points of the solution space. The solution space was formed as a quadrilateral, and in this quadrilateral any point satisfies both the constraints, but the solution will lie at one of the corner points of this solution space, and the 4 corner points are O, A, B, C. In other words, now I have only 4 possible places where I have to find my solution, and what should that solution be? That solution will be that particular point in this O, A, B, C out of these 4 points, that particular point where the value of 40x1 plus 35x2 will be maximum. So fine, so we are very close to the actual solution of the problem. So now how do we find? See, I know point O. What are the values of x1, x2 at point O? Obviously 0, 0. point O, origin, x1 is 0, x2 is 0. What about point A? Can you see that point A is one of the points which we have plotted? What is the value of x1, x2 at point A? Can you see that this was the last point which we had plotted, and the value is 24, 0. That means x1 is 24, x2 is 0. What about B? B is not something which I have plotted, but B appears to be intersection of the two lines. That means both the equations of these two lines must be satisfied at point B. Fine, we'll come to that. What about point C? Can you see that point C is also something which we have plotted? In fact, I think it was the first point which we have plotted, 0, 20. Can you see that value of x1 is 0 and value of x2 is 20 at point C? So I already know the position at point O, A and C. The only thing which I don't know is point B. And what is point B? Point B is intersection of the two lines. That means a particular point which satisfies this and this equation. Good. So we'll be able to get that point. I'll show you how. Now I'll prepare a chart. For example, I'll write down the values of x1, x2 at all the 4 points. I'll therefore draw all the 4 points in the format of a writing first, and then I'll prepare a comprehensive table. Okay. Now I'll remove this because this is not relevant right now. So we have all these details already with us. Now I'm going to write the various points of the corner points of the solution space. And what are the corner points of the solution space? We said point O. So I'll say at O. This is the corner point number 1. Origin for corner point number 1, origin O. So what are the values of x1, x2? Very obviously 0, 0. Okay, great. Then point A. Our next point was point A. So I'll say at A. What are the values of x1, x2 at point A? A point which we have plotted ourselves, the very first point which we had plotted ourselves, or was it the last point? It was the last point that we have plotted. The values of x1, x2 are 24, 0. That means x1 is 24, x2 is 0. Okay. Then point B. I said about point B I don't know anything. So let me write down at B. Okay. What is B? B is an intersection of two lines. The two lines, the equations are 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60, and the second equation is 4x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 96. In other words, since point B is an intersection of both the lines, both the equations will be satisfied at point B. So values of x1, x2 at point B can be obtained by solving these two equations as simultaneous linear equations. How do we do it? We write like this: 2x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 60 and 4x1 plus 3x2 is equal to 96. Can you see that both these equations have 3x2? So if I subtract the first equation from the second equation, 3x2 minus 3x2 will get deleted, will get cancelled, and we can get only variable x1 in the equation. So I'll do that. See, 4x1 minus 2x1 will be 2x1. 3x2 minus 3x2 will become 0. And what is the right hand side? 96 minus 60, that is 36. So I get a value 2x1 is equal to 36, or x1 is equal to 36 upon 2, that is 18. Good. Now once I get value of one variable, it is easy. Put the value over here, x1, either of these equations you can put x1 is equal to 18. If I put it here, easier one, 2 into x1, that is 2 into 18, which is 36. So this equation becomes, say, 2x1, so 2 into 18 plus 3x2 is equal to 60, or 36 plus 3x2 is equal to 60. Therefore 3x2 is equal to 60 minus 36, or equal to 24. In other words, 3x2 is equal to 24, which means x2 is equal to 24 upon 3, that is 8. So I got values of both x1 and x2, and what are the values? x1 is 18, x2 is 8. x1 is 18, x2 is 8. Okay. Last point, C. C, which is something which we had plotted ourselves, the very first point. So I'll say at C. What are the values? 0, 20. So I know the values of x1, x2 at point O, at point A, at point B, and this is at point C. This will help me now to find out which of these points gives me what? The solution. And what is the solution? That particular point which gives me the maximum value of 40x1 plus 35x2. So I'll prepare a small table here. See here, x1, x2, I'll call this zeta, zeta for the objective function. What is the zeta value? 40x1 plus 35x2. And what are the various points? O, A, B and C. We already have the coordinates x1, x2 at all the 4 points. I am copying them here. So this is 0, 0. Point O, remember that point O is 0, 0. Point A, 24, 0. Point B, 18, 8. And point C, 0, 20. Put these values in this expression. Obviously 40 into 0 plus 35 into 0, if I put, the zeta value will be equal to 0. 40 into 0 plus 35 into 0. Next, x1 coefficient is 40, x2 coefficient is 35. So 24 into 40, 960 plus 0 into 35 is 0. So 960 is the value of objective function at point A. Point B, now point B, 18 into 40 plus 8 into 35, that is nothing but 720 plus 280, that is 1000. Next, last point, 0, 20 are the values of x1, x2. Put here 0, so this term is 0. 35 into 20, 35 into 20 is 700. Now which point gives us the required solution? Examine the last column, zeta value. Which point gives me the maximum possible zeta value? Maximum value is obviously 1000. What are the values? 0, 960, 1000 and 700. Out of this, the maximum value is obviously 1000, and therefore the moment I find this point at which zeta value is maximum, I have got the solution of this problem. And what is the solution therefore? I should make 18 units of product number 1 which had a profit of rupees 40. So 18 into 40, the profit made by me from product number 1 will be 720. 18 multiplied by 40, 720. And I should make 8 units of the second product which had a profit of 35. So 8 into 35 would be 280. So my total profit will be 720 plus 280 totals up to 1000, which is the profit that I have found out. Therefore, final step now, after doing all this, preparing this table, I find that this is the point which gives me the required value of maximum profit, and therefore the solution is stated now like this. Okay, see here, we write like this: at optimality, that is point B in the graph, write first x1, then write x2, then write zeta. What is the value of x1 that we have got? X1 is equal to 18. Look at the point here. X1 is equal to 18, x2 is equal to 8. So x1 is equal to 18, x2 is equal to 8, and zeta is equal to 1000 with an asterisk. The asterisk suggests that this is the optimal solution, and therefore the question number 1 stands fully solved, and this is where we stop question number 1. Okay, thank you.